Hello everyone, and welcome back to The Old Hunt, where we are still celebrating 10 years of Bloodborne. We are playing through version 1.00 of the Japanese release, and last time we had something of an unusual episode. I was showing visions of an alternate world, a different playthrough, where rather than go for the, versatile sort of arcane build, where I'm trying to showcase as many different weapons as possible, I went with a more specific build. I went very specific paths so that I could show off my gunner abilities. We also got an important dialogue in the mix, an important part of becoming accepted as a full collaborator with the Imposter Doctor. So I hope you enjoyed that little diversion, that little trip across worlds. But now we're back. We're going to pick things up with this playthrough, and I was talking at the end of the last episode about how I sort of wanted to revisit some things about the Forbidden Woods, look back on the experience. And I've been sort of going back and forth a little bit in my mind about this as to how exactly I feel about it, because traditionally the Forbidden Woods hasn't been a place I've been super fond of, but this last run through was relatively smooth for me. I did get minorly lost, I would say, definitely at the very beginning, right? I was looking for a shortcut and I got turned around and I couldn't find it and I didn't realize where I was. So I did better in that regard. I actually didn't get super lost towards the end either. Normally I get lost at least once in a major way as I'm trying to run around the various paths at the end of the Forbidden Woods. I think maybe I've finally memorized it enough that's not been a huge issue. So I didn't have that issue, which I usually have with Forbidden Woods, and I've had a couple things reframe my perspective on it, right? We have the snakes representing forbidden knowledge, so they're no longer quite as inexplicable to me, and I actually felt like we got a fairly decent number of novel items, right? Because I've been sort of cataloging those that we've been running into. I went back and I looked, and so when I say novel items, I'm talking about novel from a lore perspective, right? The information that the game gives you about its lore, right? Some of these, we get more novel mechanical items than we get novel, straight up lore items, right? Because if you want to take, for instance, the metamorphosis runes, right? We get the clockwise and the anti-clockwise metamorphosis runes both in the Forbidden Woods. Technically, those are both two unique items. They're both metamorphosis runes, but they mechanically do different things. Sort of we get a couple different, I think, lake and deep sea runes. But the lore, if you look at the descriptions on those things, they're not actually giving you a bunch of information. And so one of the things that I was saying at the start of my explorations going into the Forbidden Woods was I sort of feel like it's a little bit of a wasteland, right? It's a little bit of an area where the novel item rate sort of slows down and you stop getting quite as much information about Bloodborne's world, especially compared to the area that you've just come from. And I mean, the area you've just come from is the area around Yharnam, which is most of the beginning of the game, where they're sort of throwing items at you. Now, to be fair, that had slowed, the pace of that slows down a little bit as you go through Old Yharnam and then Hemwick. I counted there were only 2 what I would consider novel items in Hemwick, so that's pretty low, honestly. I counted from the perspective of the lore a maximum of 7. Because I didn't want to count, double count the metamorphosis runes like I was sort of explaining. I got the White Church set, I got the Beast Roar, the Cannon, the Clear Deep Sea rune, which that sort of gets partial credit because the Deep Sea is different from the lake, but it shares a good portion of its description with the lake rune, so it feels a little bit empty. It's only 2/5 new. Then we got the Bloodstone Chunk, which is mechanically very exciting, but we can't actually do anything with it yet. This is why I ran in here. I wanted to show how here we go. I need 3 Bloodstone Chunks in order to upgrade my weapons to the next phase. So there's the promise of some increased mechanical potency on the horizon here, but it hasn't really been delivered on yet. So there's that to consider, right? It's not exactly super exciting. And again, the Bloodstone Chunk, that's another item that shares a good portion of its lines with the Bloodstone Shards, right? The twin Bloodstone Shards and the regular Bloodstone Shards. We have the Graveguard set, which I'm wearing, which is another novel item. Very important. The only one of these items that actually talks about the Forbidden Woods. And then we have the one of the 2 metamorphosis runes, whichever you sort of encounter first, I guess you can say. I counted the anti-clockwise metamorphosis rune first because it's the first one that I found in this playthrough. It tends to be the first one I find in a playthrough, but Depending on how you come at the game, maybe you don't find that little gorge with the aliens and you go straight up to that, passage with the wandering snake head on patrol there, and maybe that's your first metamorphosis rune that you run into. So that could be the first one you encounter. One way or the other, one of those two runes is going to be sort of almost a complete repeat of the other when it comes to the lore, even though mechanically they do different things. Like maybe you'd be happier to have one that boosts your HP as opposed to your stamina, or vice versa. But in terms of the lore, again, a little bit of a wasteland. And I actually feel like, 7, especially when you compare it to Hemwick, right? Hemwick, there's 2 items in all of Hemwick. Hemwick is not exactly huge, but it's also fairly large. So I actually feel like the novel item encounter rate here, as I've been cataloging it, fairly decent for the Forbidden Woods. I think the problem is it's sandwiched between 2 very novel item dense areas, because there's the area that you've been running around in Yharnam, which sort of all runs together, and at least in my experience. And even though, Hemwick, you don't get that many novel items, you do get a ton of novel items at the beginning of the game, and it sort of feels like you're constantly discovering new stuff as you go through the city of Yharnam. So I think that all runs together, and definitely, the getting access to Byrgenwerth. Byrgenwerth is a very small area, and I've looked it up. I think there's 6 or 7 novel items. We can count them as I continue to play the game. And basically you get almost as many novel lore items from Byrgenwerth as you do from all the Forbidden Woods, and Byrgenwerth is much, much smaller. So I think there's a little bit of a biasing thing going on there. So ultimately, at the end of the day, like I said, I'm not entirely sure how far I want to take my initial hypothesis that I was saying. Maybe the Forbidden Woods feel kind of barren to me because they're a little bit low density in terms of novel items, in terms of how much we learn about Bloodborne and its world. That's certainly true of the Forbidden Woods, right? One thing that you can say about going through the Forbidden Woods is you learn almost nothing about the Forbidden Woods from the item descriptions. It's basically all from the Graveguard set that I'm wearing here. And even then, right, the main thing that I get from the Graveguard set is more to do with Byrgenwerth than it is the Forbidden Woods. It just tells you there's these forbidden graves where these rituals are happening. Now, on that subject, we can talk at a little bit more length here, because one of the things that I think it's handy for me to be in the dream about, right, we have the Forbidden Woods, the Forbidden Region of Woods, and then down here, having defeated the Shadows of Yharnam, we've unlocked a new lamppost, and it's given the title at this gravestone, the Forbidden Region of Grave, or Tomb, right? The King Iki no Haka. And that right there is a little bit of an indication of the importance of that place, right? It is the Forbidden Grave. And why is that particular grave forbidden? That seems to be, right, because we have the grave guard, right? So not only is it a forbidden grave, sort of like we have the Forbidden Woods, and we had the guard posted, needed the password to say, beware, fear the old blood, right? Be wary of blood, and particularly the blood that we have outside the Forbidden Woods. We've also got someone guarding a grave, presumably. Now, it could be because there are lots of graves in the Forbidden Woods. They're all over the place. I think I'm sort of inclined to say that it's specifically this forbidden grave that they don't want us accessing, right? That makes sense, right? It goes together. Grave guard, forbidden, protect the forbidden grave. Sort of like the gate guard guards the Forbidden Woods, right? So that, I think, is suggestive. Also suggestive is the Shadows of Yharnam. And I didn't really get into this when I was doing the boss fight, in part because, I was just... It's a boss fight. I had a lot of other things on my mind. Shadows of Yharnam, and I brought this up before, the translation is fairly straightforward. The same thing can sort of work in both English and in Japanese in terms of the implications of all those words. But it really, that particular boss, it sticks out to me a little bit. And I think it sticks out to anyone. It stuck out to me in the past, and I think it would stick out to pretty much anyone. Why are you fighting a boss called the Shadows of Yharnam in the Forbidden Woods? Right? At the end of the Forbidden Woods, you've been outside the city of Yharnam for ages. Why are you fighting the Shadows of Yharnam? And the answer to that, I think, right, this is debatable, everything in Bloodborne is debatable. I think the answer to that is actually found in the Chalice Dungeons. And you have to go all the way through the story Chalice Dungeons. And I was saying towards the start of this playthrough, right, maybe I'd bring that up. Maybe I'd get to those in this particular playthrough because, yeah, I want to cover them in Translation Born, but, and I deliberately held off on going there in the Chalice chats. But this is a different playthrough. I don't mind going and doing... I'm going to end up doing things that I was hoping to wait to cover in Translation Born anyway when I get to the end of the game this time around before I finish my Translation Born playthrough. But I haven't had a chance to get as far as I would have liked at this point, and I haven't received... There's been no great hue and cry, right? I haven't gotten that many comments being like, oh, you have to show this part of the Chalice Dungeons all the way at the end, before the end of this playthrough. And so I think at this point, while I'm still interested in going and playing through the Chalices off screen, or off camera, I'm thinking I'm gonna avoid putting on screen the reveal behind the Shadows of Yharnam because it's so late. And I don't think I can do it in any reasonable amount of time to make sense for this playthrough. But what you learn when you get all the way down to the last story Chalice dungeon is there is a person in the Chalices, way down in the Chalices. The last story Chalice boss that you fight is Yharnam, Tumerian Queen. And you find out, I think it's on a Chalice description, that like cities used to take the names of the rulers that were ruling them, right? So the idea, Yharnam itself takes its name from Queen Yharnam. And so who are these shadows of Yharnam? They are presumably the shadows and therefore servants of Queen Yharnam. And why are they in the Forbidden Woods? Well, possibly because the Forbidden Grave that, Willem doesn't want people who left him behind to access is the entrance to the Chalice dungeons in the, what I'm calling, physical world. Now, it could just be an alternative dream entrance. I don't know how well this does or doesn't square with the idea that all of Yharnam is a dream. I don't know. They do talk about rituals, right? This particular, Graveguard set, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, right. It is the Graveguard set. We've got the, countless bloody ritual implements hanging off its back. Oh, of course, I'm not going to find it in consumables. It is a set of attire. So let's come down here and put up the Japanese. It's this chest piece here, right? So we have, yeah, exactly. Countless blood-stained ritual implements hang down from its back. So, that's pretty suggestive. They are doing rituals in the Forbidden Woods, and we access the Chalice Dungeons through rituals here. Maybe that's just another ritual location. Maybe that's how you can make sense of that place sort of as a dream as well. I typically favor, and I've fallen back in line with my typical thoughts thus far. There is a little bit more evidence to encounter. And there is a little bit more evidence that I haven't necessarily brought up, because there's another place I want to go to first, where you could say there's certain features of a nightmare that we'll be going to that are mirrored in the Forbidden Woods that someone has sort of subtly brought up in the comments. And I think that's worth bearing in mind. As far as my typical, way of making sense of the lore runs, I think it makes sense to think of the Forbidden Grave as sort of like the physical entrance to the Chalice Dungeons, and therefore it makes sense that the Shadows of Yharnam would come up out of that entrance, because they would have come down from the Chalices with Queen Yharnam, and we'll actually encounter said queen at some point in this playthrough. So we know that Queen Yharnam is up here, and it makes sense that her shadows would follow. So there is some reason to think that that's what's going on there. Now again, this is Bloodborne. It's not exactly clear-cut, and you could have your own alternative interpretation to make all sorts of sense of that. But I do think it makes sense. It makes sense that they've got a guard set on that place. Master Willem's like, all right, fine. You don't want to come here. You don't get access to the Tomb of the Gods anymore. At least not through me. We know the Healing Church does explore the Tomb of the Gods. They have their own methods of getting through there. But I think it makes sense that Willem would sort of shut off the access that he controls. And, he's got the one guard posted at the the gate, the password gate guard, and then he's got the grave guard of the forest guarding the forbidden grave. I think that sort of hangs together, makes sense. Again, if you disagree, let me know. I'd be interested. I say that almost dismissively because I've yet to change my mind, but it's not impossible. So there's that, right? There's something interesting about the Forbidden Woods. The other thing I wanted to bring up in regards to all this like chalice ritual stuff, I got another comment. I was talking about the Shaman Bone Blade, and hey, now I've had a chance to show that in action in another world. But I was saying in the episode before last, I wasn't sure what exactly was going on with the Shaman Bone Blade, and another person who's been commenting on a good amount of this playthrough and some of my other videos as well. I'm sorry, I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce your name. I want to say Rowan Esper, but that could be wrong. Let me know if I pronounced that wrong. I'll have the name up on the screen, so you'll at least be able to read it and know who I'm talking about. But this person was bringing up the point that, well, it sort of makes sense what sort of rituals would be going on here. It's probably some sort of ritual butchering. Which makes a ton of sense, because Chalice Dungeons, they're the Tomb of the Gods, and at various points when you're exploring the Chalice Dungeons, you happen across these chambers that are sort of full of these ritual burials, and there seem to very clearly have been rituals put in place, and there are also sort of places that are like dedicated to the gods. You have the guards of the gods, right? The keeper of the old lords is a boss that you can find down in the Chalice Dungeon, right? So it's associated with gods and burials and offerings. So it makes sense that this ritual butchering, these ritual offerings would be happening even as the, upper world goes about its way and is unaware of them. It makes sense that these secret rituals are taking place in the Chalice Dungeons. Also, like, what rituals are the, like, bloody ritual implements hanging off the back here? Like, what rituals are happening here, right? It's probably some sort of ritual butchering. And in the DLC, you get some items that are also suggestive of this, right? There's a lot to tie the idea of ritual in Bloodborne to dissection and butchering and, like, offering of relics in the sense, like the historical sense of relics as body parts, which, I mean, they're straight up, when we do chalice rituals in the dream, some of the ritual materials, like, we've already got the bloodshot eyeball. We get worse. We get, we get yellow backbones, right? We get inflicted organs. We get these body parts that are 100% designed to be used in these rituals. So there's a lot of sense, I think, in saying that, yeah, probably the rituals that are going on that are like in honor of the Great Ones, in honor of the, the slumbering gods, possibly just in exchange for various arcane effects. We don't really know for sure. We, as far as I know, we don't really encounter a lot of actual taking place rituals in the Chalice Dungeons. But it does make sense to me that the Shaman Bone Blade would, its original purpose, because we're repurposing it when we turn enemies against each other, its original purpose does make sense to me as being these sort of ritual dissections or butcherings. So I wanted to make sure to bring that up. Thought it was an interesting point. Okay. And before we get started with the actual mechanics, because I've just been talking a lot about, my thoughts about potential lore theories and what I think about the game design and all this, that, and the other thing. I want to do a little bit of maintenance on this character here. So let's see. We don't have the ability to upgrade any of our weapons. Well, I am tempted. How many upgrade materials do I have? All right, so I have 35 twin shards. 35. I'll probably get one more somehow. I don't even need one more. I only need 30. No, I need 36. Right? Because it's 3 and then 5 and then 8. So that's 16 total to get to plus 6. And I've got 37. I've already got enough. You know what this is telling me? This is telling me that I can upgrade the stake driver to plus 6. I think we're going to do it. I've been tempted by this thing for a long time. Seeing how many upgrade materials I have to get to plus 6, I think it's time to do it. I can't wield it yet because I need a strength of 18, but I've got 30,000 blood echoes. I bet I can get there. Especially if I use some of the cold blood items I've been holding on to. So let's do it. I'm going to switch weapons right here. This is somewhat impromptu, but I think it'll be fun. There we are. And now, for the rifle spear, we'll definitely be able to do it with the shards. I think we'll be one twin bloodstone shard short. One shy of getting to the number we want, but that's okay. We'll get there. We'll get there. 28,000. That might only be enough for one, but it'll probably be a lot left over. And I only need 2. No. Oh, okay. Whew. I thought I clicked the button too fast and was looking to upgrade vitality and couldn't back out of it, but thankfully I could. All right, we got to get strength to 18 to wield this thing. Yeah, we're very, very close to level number 2, so I'll actually get to use one of these cold blood items. Okay. Just a moment here. Uh-huh. Just back away so we don't accidentally activate a dialogue there. Let's see, which one of these things... I've got 8 of these. Let's see how much I get. Am I going to need more than that? I can't remember the exact number. I know I have to be close. Let's just be safe. I'm going to use a lower level one. Let's use one of these level 4s. Yeah, okay, that should be enough.
Welcome. Very well.
Yeah, just barely enough. Right here. We're going to go to 18. Okay.
Farewell, mate.
Alright, just out of curiosity, what are my blood vials and bullets looking like? This is something I've been paying much more attention to in my other playthrough because it's so resource intensive. Alright, I'll buy one more blood vial. These are pretty good, I think. Particularly for a playthrough where I'm not, you know, shooting away my life all the time. Okay, let's see. What am I going to do here? I wanted to... Oh, we got to take out the blood gems off of these weapons here so that our stake driver can do something effective. Okay. Now, I want to leave my saw spear alone because we've converted that to fire damage. But the Ludwig's blade here we can undo. And then I'm going to also need to equip. Might come back to that Holy Blade. We'll see. I think it's a strong candidate for eventually getting its damage converted to Arcane and sticking with us for the rest of the playthrough. It was pretty solid. I have to say, for everyone who finds it boring, it was pretty fun. For me, having not really used it extensively in the past. But for now, you know, we're switching. I want to try a bunch of weapons. So, I don't know. We'll figure it out. In the meantime, maybe I'll speed through this a little bit. Okay. This has a better slow poison effect, even though I don't think we're going to be using a lot of slow poison effects. Alright, I think that's going to be about as good as we can get it for now. We're going to try it out. I have no idea what this moveset even is, so before I go anywhere, let's just take a look here. Alright, pretty close range. Does not use a ton of stamina. I'm surprised it's a strength weapon, given that use pattern there. Okay, so there's that big... It's not so much a stab as it is like a downward slam. That's interesting. What's my... Oh, I haven't transformed it, of course. Okay, so if I transform it, what happens? Okay, lots more stabbing type attacks, but they're slower. Interesting. That's like a spear type of moveset. Okay, and then... Okay. Is that back to untransformed? Yes, it is. So, 1, 2. Okay, I think that's the like calling card. Interesting. Yeah, that's the part where it's using the gunpowder to like shoot forward. Oh, silly me. I equipped a weapon and didn't read the description. Let's just take a look at this. Oh, you know what? I realize I did translate this because I talked about the openings are big, right? I was talking about it in connection with Jura. So I should have just cut that section out there where I just wasted everyone's time and reread the description. But what I was thinking was, right, so we have L1 to transform, and then R2, you get that big gap where you're open, but it shoots forward with the, you know, complex mechanism of the giant boom, shoots forward the stake, and presumably does a bunch of damage. All right, I'm getting a sense for the moveset here, and, you know, we've got a lot of, like, practice in the air. We got to see what it does when we practice it against some enemies. So let's, not here. Let's pick up where we left off in the Forbidden Woods and make just a tiny little bit of progress this time. You know, I'm sort of tempted. I talked about the, like, unique items in the size of Byrgenwerth. Let's just do a quick run through Byrgenwerth and see what happens. Alright, here we are at the Forbidden Grave, which notably, the region title remains the Forbidden Woods. You know, and this is here, presumably, maybe? I don't know, the Forbidden Grave. Maybe somewhere over here, because we can't access it, right? If this is the place where the Byrgenwerth College scholars came and they physically went into the Tomb of the Gods, the Chalice Dungeons from here, then we can't find that same entrance. We can't use it. So there's an argument against right there. All right, now I need to run through the woods here because there's a unique enemy. There it is. And I need to sort of run past. All right. Interesting. All right, now how does this do? Uh-oh. Left myself too open. There we go. 196 in comparison. I didn't get a great comparison. Okay. Yeah. Not exactly super powerful. I think there's an item back here somewhere that I ran past because I was busy. If they hit you with that grab, they do a bunch of frenzy buildup. And that is not a fun thing to deal with. Maybe maybe the item is further ahead than I thought. I'm pretty sure there's an item out here somewhere. Oh, there it is. I was right next to it. Yeah, madman's knowledge. Yep, right next to it. Okay. Here we are. It's Byrgenwerth. We've made it. And yes, indeed, it is that domed building that we saw from afar earlier on, back in the Forbidden Woods. I know everyone talks about it, but it is very cool to see upcoming areas, get that sort of advanced preview that you can get from Bloodborne. Okay. Now, I feel like, yeah, we can get the drop on some enemies here. Hello there. Oh! I'm a fool. I thought I knew what the charged attack was. I was just tapping the button. That is the charged attack. Ho 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 ho! Uh-oh. Get shot. Uh-oh. No! Well, we get to see it in action. Thankfully, my frenzy meter is apparently pretty healthy. Alright. And now it's dead. And of course, notably, because it's frenzy, the meter continues to build even after the enemy is defeated and the source has been removed. But that shouldn't be a problem, right? Oh, I have to say, though, that big fiery explosion, that was pretty cool. I'm sort of glad I tiptoed my way around it. Oh, that's so fun. It destroys my stamina, though. I need to be better about that. You're next, huh? Oh, boo. All right, come at me again. Yes. Oh, that look at how long I was in negative stamina. That's what I get for never upgrading my stamina. Boy, talk about a different experience. If you want to make the most of that charge attack, which is quite fun, I have to say, this is pretty awesome. If you want to make the most of that charge attack, you have to change your playstyle. You either need to allow for a long time for that stamina to rebuild, or be seriously investing in your stamina so that you can do it and then switch to your more regular attacks. Because the fact that it like shoots back to its typical faster R1 form after that big strike. I'm being careful because I know there's an enemy around here somewhere. Up here. Okay, thankfully the enemy was further away than I thought. The fact that it switches back to its like faster R1 moveset means that if you're able to not have your stamina depleted, the gap that you leave probably isn't that huge. But I mean, I say that having not fully discovered... Oh, this is going to be interesting. No! Oh, it's too short range. Oh, no. Okay. You know what? I don't want to deal with this thing. So I'm going to switch to my good old fire weapon here, which this thing shouldn't resist as heavily as it would a physical strike. So, yeah, pardon me while I just resort to good old tried and true methodology there. That enemy is not a good one to tangle with. Okay, that was a lake rune. So that is not a novel item. Arcane Lake, I think? I can confirm that in editing. But that is not a novel item. But it is nice to have another lake rune. Especially because we're right by a lake. It makes sense. This is, I think, potentially the other side of Hemwick, is what this lake effectively is portraying. I don't think there's anything... I always check over here, and I don't think there's ever anything there. There is something there, but that's a little bit of a trap. So I'm just going to run through this way. I think I'm actually going to prioritize opening the gate that I know is over here. There we are. This will make it easier for us to run back after we warp back in if we die. I wonder how effective this giant blast attack is going to be. Uh-oh. Not going to be very effective if I get grabbed like that. Get me out of here. I'm not fighting that thing here. I'll go fight it somewhere else. Thankfully, the grab in and of itself doesn't do a ton of damage. Alright, yeah, you do that grab thing. Uh-oh. That's not what I wanted. Right, yeah, you do the grab thing. Run towards me. Ah, it's too slow still. I can see this is going to be challenging. All I ever want to do now... all I ever want to do now is land that big attack. Probably it's best if I switch my focus, though. I can play the game other ways. Just because I have a hammer and everything looks like a nail. Okay, I am really curious, though. What's going to happen with this arcane haze bug, as I refer to these things? Look at that! Ah! 346 damage! Whoa! Nothing hurts these things! I think I showed you before in the Chalice dungeons. These things have super, super high defenses if you're not going after the flower on their heads. I wonder if I just... Yeah. Even though it was barely alive, it took a bunch of hits in order to deal with that. Okay, the flower dropped it. What? Okay, got some arcane haze. Now, if I hadn't been through the chalices, that would be a novel item right there. But I have been through the chalices, so I'm not going to count it. Oop, I let it go. I didn't want to let it go. I want it charged up. I want to get a backstab. Yes! Oh, no. I didn't have stamina. I didn't have the stamina to follow up on the backstab. I was super curious whether or not, because I saw the knockback, right? I saw how far I got pushed back when it came to that. Look at that. When I hit from the front, that's how far back they fly. And so I wasn't sure if the backstab would work, if they would get just thrown to the ground. But they do get put into the backstab position. And then hilariously, I was unable to follow up with a visceral on the backstab because I didn't have any stamina to perform an R1 attack. Took too long to regenerate. Oh, that's wild. Okay. Oh, that's Madman's Knowledge. I thought, okay, it must be this over here. I thought we were going to get a novel item. Here we go. Novel item number 1. Got one thing from Byrgenwerth here. Alright. And now let's actually go inside the building. Inside the old college. We've got to go in this way. Come over here. This, like, trapdoor here, potentially could be another, like, entrance to the chalices. I don't think it is because, like, the college finds it, but they didn't, like, build themselves on top of it. It doesn't exactly make sense to me that that's where that would be. We're going to go somewhere where I think it could also make sense for this to, like, hook up to, and that place is missing now. And we'll find out a little bit about, you know, why it's missing, you know, when we get there. But for now, let's just continue. There's another novel item. Here is a hunter enemy. This is a very difficult hunter enemy to fight. So let's maybe not rely on the giant explosion. Or just die. There's that too. I really was trying to open the door, but oh well. Right, maybe it's time we switch back to our trusty old saw spear here for this particular fight, because that hunter is no joke. Now, I do think I should be able to, because I wanted to run across and open the door. I should be able to just come over here and open the door. There we go. You can see what I mean about this place being small. We've just run through the course of the building here. Come around this way. Was there an item up here? I don't think there was. Why am I hearing... Oh, because I died. I was like, why are there enemies? I killed them all. And then I remembered I died. Anyway. Alright, so what are we at for unique item count? I think we're at 2? Alright. We're going to find out about this hunter. We're going to fight them upstairs. Alright, they have the threaded cane. Uh-oh. Come on, rally. Youch. That threaded cane hurt. Good. Alright, that worked out. Oh, that's what it was getting hit with. It was the Rosmarinus. Look at how much damage that does. That's insane. Boy, just a couple ticks of that. And I'm in trouble. Nope, nope. I wanted to do a transformation attack. Look at that. Boy, that's crazy. Alright, I've actually got another idea. Just occurred to me. Because that enemy is on something of a route. And if I can take advantage of it, then it sets up a backstab. I wouldn't mind getting a backstab with my crazy powerful burst weapon. Although, then again, the thing about getting a backstab with that weapon is I couldn't follow it up because it uses so much of my stamina. So maybe that's not such a good idea. Be pretty fun, though. I don't know. I think we'll wait, and we'll fight the enemy down here, where I won't get, like, crammed into a narrow passageway. And if that doesn't work, maybe I'll do some backstab exploiting. Or I'll just get impatient. Alright, here we go. Now I see the enemy that I'm waiting for. Come on down the stairs. Did not remember her having this much HP. Like, I knew she was a tough fight, but still. This is crazy. Alright, hello there. Uh-oh. I wanted to land the opening hit. No! That mist is death! Don't hit me with the mist! Okay. Oh, I wonder if I can use my beast roar on her. Uh-oh. Ah, the mist got me. Oh, and we got the Augur Verbretus too. Oh, it's such a cool moveset. Alright. Time for strategy number 3. Run for my life. This is taking too long and the fight is too hard. So I'm gonna run for my life. One of the old reliable strategies of Bloodborne. Now that I think of it, I think this is actually how you can get that backstab, is by running for your life. Alright, here we go. Now just don't mind me while I climb this ladder. She might get 1 or 2 hits in, but she won't follow me up here. So we're safe. Anyway, here's novel item number 3. That happens to be a key item, and also an actual physical key. And is it going to drop on me here? No. Next one up? Maybe? You can hear it. You can hear the enemy waiting to pounce. There it is. Where was it? Did it fall? I think it fell. Where'd it go? I hear the enemy no longer waiting to pounce, but I don't know where it is. What do you like to deal with? Not too bad. Yeah, my stake driver wasn't doing too bad. Okay. What novel item was I up to? Is this 4? Because that's another one. I've lost count. Maybe I can confirm that in editing. But that's quite a lot. And there's more. There's more. We're almost done with Byrgenwerth, by the way. There's a couple of notes. I'm not going to read them at the end of this episode because, boy, oh boy. Oh, I wonder if this is something that's different for 1.00. Because here's the thing. I was expecting that NPC to have returned to a specific location that sets up a backstab. However, maybe her AI doesn't do that in 1.00. Interesting. Let's try following her. Or at least watching. Now she should go over to like the couch and put her back to over where that treasure chest is. Yeah, we're not reading the notes because this episode is almost over, but is she just going to go down the stairs? Is she going to wait somewhere else? Where'd she go? I thought I saw the effect of her whip cane on the stairs, but I don't see her anymore. Maybe she waits on the stairs on 1.00 and you can't get the cheeky backstab. Oh. Is she invisible now? That would be funny. Or is she just down the stairs? Yeah, she was just down the stairs. Is she going to continue to patrol? Or does after she go down the stairs, does she go and wait by the treasure chest? Okay, there it is. That's what I expected. Interesting. Maybe I just didn't wait long enough. Anyway. I'm going to try one more time. If I die to this NPC again, then so be it. It's a very tough NPC. I can end the episode at that point. If I win, great. If I lose, whatever. We'll get there eventually. Maybe I'll start the next episode by getting some revenge. I can't resist. We have to do it. We have to do it. I can't follow up with a visceral, but I don't care. It's too funny. No, I missed! I didn't even hit! Oh, it's a tragedy. Look at all her arcane powers. I want those arcane powers for myself. Maybe fighting her on the stairs will give me an advantage. Don't let the mist hit me. That mist is death. No! Ah, I got her down to half HP. Alright. Well, we'll deal with her in the next episode. Or maybe we won't. Maybe the thing to do, because this is a tough foe, and there are other ways that we can fortify ourselves. I don't know if there's a great... Well, actually, we could go to some areas that would allow us to improve our powers a little bit more. I'm hearing some enemies wandering around, and as much as I'm right by a lamppost, I'm feeling a little bit insecure. I'm going to head back to the dream. We'll finish that conversation there. Right. I was thinking I can, sort of brute force my way past the enemies in that area, the generic enemies, which are interesting in their own right? Because Byrgenwerth, you've basically seen like 90% of it. Almost all of Byrgenwerth we have just experienced. So it's got weird enemies, right? So it's got enemy variety. We've got, 4 or 5? I completely lost count, but I'll probably put the right number out there in editing. Unique items. And we've got, 2 more, I think, because there's the item in the chest, which I think is unique. Could be wrong about that. I don't actually remember. And then there's an item that we can get, a unique rune from someone who we have yet to meet, the one other person who's waiting at Byrgenwerth, right? And then there's the sort of secret thing that'll lead into the boss fight. So there's a tiny little bit more, but it's jam-packed, right? And we've got a bunch of those items that we can read as I go down some of the alternative paths. I think the more I talk about it, the more it makes sense to explore some alternative pathways. Have a little bit more fun with the stake driver. Boy, this has turned out to be a blast. No pun intended. What a fun weapon this has been to use. I'm excited to have a little bit more fun with this weapon in some of the alternative areas that we'll be going to. So anyway, I'm going to take stock. I'm going to call it into my hunt for the evening. Leave you with those thoughts on, the Forbidden Woods. Might come back to them here or there as we run into different things that become relevant to the discussion. Ultimately, I feel like it is a perceptible drop in item density, but it's not as severe as I was thinking at the start, right? As my initial hypothesis was saying. So I think maybe I've been a little bit harsh on the Forbidden Woods through the years, but hopefully you enjoyed sort of exploring those ideas with me as I went along there, and you will continue to explore or enjoy my alternative explorations of the game in celebration of 10 years of Bloodborne. Anyway, like I said, I'm going to call an end to my hunt for the evening, but I wish all of you good hunting.